Rayman 2 is a game we all know and love, and if you don't know it or you don't love it, then why did you click on this video? If you did though, please stay, this could be interesting to you. Anyway, Rayman 2 is often the top contender when the subject of which game in the legendary franchise is best. One of the key reasons the Limbless Hero's second adventure is so highly regarded is of course because of the story and the world building. Now Rayman 1 has some phenomenal world building and level designs, and Rayman 3 has this on top of a compelling narrative, but neither of them quite hit the mark in the way Rayman 2 does. In terms of narrative, or lack thereof, in Origins and Legends, well, that's for another day. The purpose of this video isn't to compare each game and decide which is best, it's to look at the game most often deemed the best, and question the potential narrative problem and implications created by one of the most well-known Easter eggs in the whole series, the illustrious 1000th Lum. So, for the uninitiated, or just those who need a refresher, the heart of the world is seen in Rayman 3 at the end of the Ferret Council, and is made up of 1000 yellow lums. Typically they need to be kept together in order to form this tinsy party house, but unfortunately Razorbeard and his ragtag team of mechanical menaces destroyed the heart of the world and separated it into the aforementioned 1000 lums. These are distributed fairly evenly, funnily enough, throughout the world of Rayman 2 and can be collected by Rayman on his adventure through every level. In fact, they need to be collected. Their power can be harnessed to aid Rayman in his journey, which in video game talk means you need to collect a certain number of the main collectible in order to progress to the next boss fight, typically denoting the end of a narrative chapter. You see, at the end of the day, the yellow lums serve as collectibles, where red lums give you health, blue give you oxygen, green serve as checkpoints, and purple acts as hoops to swing from. The yellow lums are the score, essentially. Unlike Rayman 3, there is very little focus on the player's performance in Rayman 2. You can increase your health by smashing cages, but other than that, there are no gameplay benefits to doing anything optional. So the yellow lums act as the primary way of tracking a score or driving force to revisit a level. It's quite important. So you can imagine the confusion and concern when in a cutscene early on in the game, the villain Razorbeard eats a yellow lum, and we see the total lum counter go down from 1000 to 999. That's a pretty big deal. So what does this mean? Is that lum gone forever now? We can't collect it? Is the heart of the world gone forever? Is Razorbeard ultra powerful now? Well, I can answer all of those questions for you in order right now. Not much, no, you can, nope, not at all. Go back and recheck the questions if you care enough, because right now we are moving on. If you look at each level in the main versions of Rayman 2, and by that I mean the N64, PC and Dreamcast versions, and the smaller ones based on those, you know, the DS and the 3DS, each one has 50 lums to collect, bar 2 instances. The very first level, the Woods of Light, has 5 lums, and the prison ship has 94. These are easily explainable. The first level is a tutorial and requires you to collect all 5, it needs to be simple and easy, and the prison ship is the final level before fighting Razorbeard, and as such, it's quite a big one. So it's kind of a double level with almost double the lums. Outside of that though, every level in Rayman 2 has 50 lums to collect. A nice round number. And if you collect every lum in every level, according to the level's lum counter, you will find yourself with a cool 999 out of 999 lums. Perfect. So I guess that 1000th lum that got eaten by Razorbeard really is gone forever, right? Nope, not at all. Now, if you were to magically get this extra final 1000th lum and see the counter go right back up to 1000, you'd think maybe this is a cool reward for beating the robot pirate captain, right? Because I would think if you defeat him, you can probably make him give you the lum back. And he obviously still has it, because I don't know if you know this, but robot pirate captains typically can't poo anything out on account of them being robot pirates. And that includes lums, they can't poo out lums. So it's still in him somewhere. Like, he's obviously not just going to leave it somewhere. That'd be a very strange move considering he ate it for a reason. He doesn't want Rayman to have it. Plus, this thing would surely give him enough power so he could defeat Rayman easily without the need of a giant mech, leading to a contrived mediocre boss fight that only makes use of a gameplay mechanic introduced 15 minutes prior. Right? Well, I don't know how he got rid of it, but he doesn't have it. Contrary to the total lum counter, and in fact the level counter, one of the final missions in the game, Tomb of the Ancients, contains an extra hidden lum, the 51st lum of the level, and therefore the 1000th lum in the game. And you can collect it, if you're not playing on the 3DS. I'll get to that. So how do you collect it? Well, it's as easy as looking out for a ridge in a wall on the left here midway through the level. If you time your jump right, you should have enough time to glide around this edge and make your way into what seems like a purpose-built hideaway specifically for a hidden lum. So it'll come as no surprise that in this hideaway, there is in fact a lum, and a handful of pirates, and a game-breaking bug if you're on the 3DS. This unusual offshoot in the graveyard level features a big old skull. Now, there's a lot of them in this game, so at first it's not really a weird sight. It fits the tone of the game nicely. But I have got questions. Why is it so big? Whose is it? And why is there a lum in there? And why did it break the 3DS version? Okay, I've said it a few times now, I better explain what I mean. So, you get into the area, you fight some pirates, and you go forwards towards the skull, and you find yourself on a jumping pad, you know, one of those cobweb ones. Now typically if you jump on this it bounces you up and you can stroll through the eye socket of the dead giant and you find the illustrious final piece needed to form the disco haven of some lazy teensies. Sounds good, right? Yeah, and for some reason the bounce pad doesn't work on the 3DS port. I don't know why, but it annoys me. The 3DS port is based on the Dreamcast version. It has the Glowbox Village and minigames taken out, but the visuals and the Isle of Doors is taken straight from that version. But for some reason that bounce pad just never registers Rayman and never makes him bounce. Therefore you can't get high enough to reach the Lum. There is actually a way to get there by cheesing the game a little bit. If you jump and get hit by an enemy while in midair, you can just about maneuver yourself to the eye socket with the added height you gain from being hit. If you manage this, then well done, you can get the 1000th Lum and slide back to the main part of the level, at which point the game crashes. Yay! This version is no stranger to bugs, but this one is truly the worst in that it completely hinders progress in the game and requires a reboot. Not the end of the world, but it's annoying, and the other bugs are just run-of-the-mill bugs you get when you try and lazily port a 12-year-old game onto a 3D console for no reason other than money. Anyway, this is the worst version of the game, don't let anyone tell you otherwise, justice for the PS1. So we've got 1000 Lums, cool, and the counter reflects that? Oh, nah. So for whatever reason, collecting this Lum does nothing for the Lum counter, either in the level or overall. This could be an oversight, but I'm inclined to think this was omitted because you can collect this Lum before finishing the game or collecting every other Lum. So I think they kept it separate from the Lum counter so as not to confuse anyone, which is valid. I think if you've gone out of your way to get this, you can probably work out that it's a hidden secret Lum anyway. God, I've said Lum so many times. I still have lots of questions though. Why does Razorbeard not have this Lum anymore? Whose skull is that? Okay, well that's all my questions, but they are pretty big questions. As it stands, we don't know the answer to either of those questions. I've said questions way too many times now as well. The Lum's presence in this level is unexplained by the game. The truth is, it's there as an Easter egg for players to find, but in the universe of Rayman 2, I actually have a theory. Alright, strap in. I think Razorbeard, after eating the Lum early on, was enjoying being a little bit more powerful. He goes around raiding places and enslaving people as he does. Now, as we know, Rayman rescued Clark after he found the first mask, but sometime before finding the fourth mask, Clark must get kidnapped because we find him in the aforementioned level, the Tomb of the Ancients, being controlled by the Robo-Pirates. I think, personally, Razorbeard himself went to deal with Clark sometime between Masks 1 and 4. Other pirates will have informed him that Clark took down so many robots and Rayman helped him. It's in Razorbeard's best interest to stop Clark, or at least, control him, use him against Rayman, and who better to oversee this than the boss man himself? After all, with all the extra power he's got now, given he consumed a yellow Lum, he should be unstoppable. So he charges in to apprehend Clark and has to fight his way through a group of other freedom fighters, one of which being enormous. At this point, I'm a little stumped and just making this up, because there typically aren't a lot of creatures of the magnitude to possess a skull like this in Rayman 2, but I reckon Razorbeard fought his way through this team of freedom fighters, including the big beast. 1, got Clark and sent him off to the ship. However, during the battle, I think Razorbeard nearly got defeated. The Lum's power was clearly not enough, and he couldn't risk putting himself in direct danger like that again, so he removed the Lum from his body and buried it in the closest graveyard with the skull of the largest beast he had ever defeated. While at the graveyard, the Tomb of the Ancients, he figured he'd leave Clark there to be experimented on, and later rescued by Rayman, but he didn't plan on that. Following this, Razorbeard thinks, well, damn, I can't let that happen again, so he employs that one guy to make that cliché mech for him to use in the final battle so that when Rayman royally demolishes him in the armour, Razorbeard himself is able to escape unscathed, something he wouldn't have been able to do had he not had that sobering encounter with the large beast I mentioned earlier. And that's it, I suppose. There could be any number of explanations for that Lum being there or for who that skull belongs to, but while we don't have an official explanation, that's the headcanon I currently go by. It could of course get a lot more complicated if we include the Rayman Revolution 1000th Lum, as that's just hanging out in a chest in the same level, or if we start looking at the PS1 version which has Razorbeard eat a red Lum and only features 800 to collect, meaning that in this version some of the heart of the world was left intact. Then there are handheld games that try to mess around with the Lum counts too, but we're not going to get into those. As far as I'm concerned, the N64, PC and Dreamcast versions of Rayman 2 are the canon ones, and everything else is just fun for the sake of it. Anyway, this was just a fun little narrative theory to explain one of the biggest Easter eggs in the Rayman franchise. Don't take it too seriously. And with that, thank you for watching. Stay limbless, stay purple, stay lummy, and I'll see you in the next video.